Hello everyone and welcome back to Start Tonight. In this React.js series, we have covered a lot of different features of React.js up until now. Yes, in the last video, I talked about the useEffect hook, which can be used to control the lifecycle of any React.js component. In this video, we'll talk about how we can fetch data from a third-party API and then showcase the data or use that data in our React component, maybe to display some information or do some processing on that data. So we will be using the fetch API call that's available in JavaScript. So if you know JavaScript, you should know about fetch. If you don't know about fetch function in JavaScript, then I'll give you a brief introduction for that in this particular video, but I'll recommend you to go back and study about that. We will also use a third-party library, which is Axios, which is one of the most popular third-party libraries when it comes to hitting third-party APIs. There is another one which is very popular and even the React official documentation recommends that, which is React Query. So I'll talk about the React Query, how we can use it in the next video. So let's get started with this video. As you can see on the screen, I have a basic, simple component, right? In this component, what we will do today is we will use the fetch function to hit a third-party API. So I have found, a website. So here on this link, we have top 15 free APIs that can be used without any key or any authentication. So, there's a cat facts. Using this, you can generate random cat facts. Board will give you some resources, random activities to do, right? So we will be using, so this one is, for getting random dog images. We will be using the jokes API, yes, to get random jokes. And every joke will have one setup line and one punchline. So we'll try to, make some simple UI tweaks to make it look catchy as well, right? So this is the URL that can be used to hit the API. So if you open this particular URL, you will see that you get some data, and the data has a type which is showing general, then a setup line, can I watch the TV, and then the punchline, yes, but don't turn it on, right? And along with an ID. So we will be using primarily the setup and the punchline, right? So let's see how we can use this. Okay, time to write some code, guys. So let's see what we can do. I have a message. So let's first change the message. Random jokes. Okay. Now let's first use the fetch call and see how we can use it. So this is the fetch call. This fetch call takes in, a URL that will be the URL for the API that we want to hit. So in our case, this is the URL that gets us the data, right? And post this, we can use, so this particular fetch call returns a promise, and we can use a then call to process the response that is returned from this particular call, right? So I can use it like this. I can have response returned, and I can convert first then handling. I will be converting the response that we receive into a JSON so that we can handle the JSON. Don't get confused by this. Let me just increase the size. So don't get confused by this. This is just taking an anonymous function. So this can be written like this as well if this is more easier for you guys to understand, right? And inside of it, what we are doing is we are returning this response.json so that we can again handle it. Now then callback can be used, over and over again. So what I will do is, so this dot then, let me just bring it over here. So this is associated with the fetch call, and then I can use another then call. Inside, again, I can have another callback function. And here I can receive this, response.json that it has, the first one has returned, right? So what I'll do is I will put this over here. And I will hold this in the data argument. And if I do console.log data, we should be seeing, yep. So in this, yeah. So over here, if I refresh it, we should be seeing this. So we're getting the exact same response that we saw over here, type setup punchline. We are getting this over here, type setup punchline. So this is how we can fire a third-party API call. We just need the URL for the API, and this is how the fetch function generally works. Now I have used more code, but you will see code examples like this using the arrow function style, and these are more common, right? So you won't find what I just showed you, and you'll find this instead. because this requires less code and you generally prefer writing code that's shorter. Yeah, so this is how it will look. If I save it, we still get the same. So I've used the arrow function style. So like I said, with the fetch call, you require at least two then handling. So in the first one, generally we convert the response that we receive from the API into a JSON, and then in the second one, we do whatever we want to do with it. Now, what we want to do with it? So obviously, we want to display the jokes on the user interface. And for, updating the user interface, what we have to do. Yes, we have to use a state variable. So let's create a state variable called joke. And let's set a setter function for this. Use state. And as initial value, let's provide an empty object. Okay. So we have created a state variable with name joke, which will be an object, and we have a setter function for that. Now let's just simply print this over here. So what I'll do is I'll create two divs because we have to show two keys. One would be setup and another is the punchline. Alright, so we're not seeing anything. Obviously, we'll have to update the state variable inside of this because this is where we are getting the data, right? So what I'll do is I'll simply call the set joke and I will set data over here. Now you will see this will work, but not correctly. So as you can see, this is updating almost, automatically over and over again. So this will be running infinite number of times. It will keep updating the user interface. Now, why this is happening? So let me just, first stop this. Let me comment this out and stop this. Okay. So why this is happening? What we are doing over here is inside the app component in, the root level, we are calling the fetch API call, which is getting us the data, and that data is being set in the state variable. Now, as you know that as soon as the state gets updated, this component will get re-rendered. Now, once this component gets re-rendered, this code will be executed again. Again, the fetch API is called. And inside the fetch API call, a new data is, we get the new data. And we again set it inside of the joke, which changes the state again. And this particular thing goes over and over and over again. Each time the state changed, the app component gets re-rendered. When it gets re-rendered, the fetch call is made again. Again, it changes the state, then again re-rendering. So that's why we were seeing, constant change of, content that was displayed over here. Now, how we can handle it? So one easier way, which is not the standard way, but one easier way is to use effect. Yes, you can use the use effect hook to, sort of manage this. What we can do is, we know that, using the use effect hook, we know we can handle different lifecycle events like mounting, unmounting, and updation of any component. So we can make this particular fetch call happen when the component is mounted, right? And if I don't provide any dependency in the dependency array, then I can make sure that that use effect executes only once, right? So that should solve my problem. So let's see how we can do that. So let's have a use effect function. Inside of this, we'll have a callback function setup, and inside this, we will call this. Now, if I use this as it is without providing any dependency array, then also, this will keep on executing over and over again, because if I do not provide any dependency array, empty or with a value, this use effect will get executed whenever any state variable gets updated. So we have to, or if you want to see this, if I just, save this, you are seeing, the same, like it was earlier, this is still behaving the same way. So let me just, add an empty array for dependencies, save it, refresh it, and now things will work fine. So now it has stopped. We just got one joke, right? So this is how we do, although this is not the right way, this is not the perfect way. Like I said, React query is a better way because it handles, different things in a better way. How data is fetched, how data is processed, etc. But yes, to begin with, you can use effect, or you can keep it in the open as well, but then surround it with some conditions so that you can control when the fetch is getting executed, right? Okay, so this was it. We are able to show the data that we are getting. Now let's create a button to, sort of generate random jokes as well, because, the heading says random jokes. So the user should be able to generate those random jokes. So what I'll do is I'll create another div. Inside of this, I'll create another button, generate joke. And on click of this, I'll add an event handler, which will have name generate joke is fine. Okay. So let's create this function const generate joke. And we can take this particular fetch call inside of here. Okay. And inside this useEffect, we can simply call generate joke. Yep. So I think this should be fine now. So if I click on this generate joke, I'll be seeing a new joke generated each time. Why did the house go to the doctor? It was having window panes. Okay, so yeah, some silly jokes, but yes, every time we're getting one joke generated. Now, one thing to check over here is, in terms of user interface or the user experience, the data that we're getting has one setup line, right? So when you tell a joke, you tell the setup line, then you take a break, right? And then you deliver the punchline so that, the impact of the joke is larger. Now, how we can do that in case of this user interface? I would want, when the generate joke is clicked, just the setup line is displayed, and after 2-3 seconds the punchline gets displayed. So do you think you can do that? If you know JavaScript, you should be able to figure out at least how you can implement that, right? So take a break and try this yourself. Obviously I'll be sharing the solution, so you can try it first yourself, and then come back, or at least pause the video now, try it for some time, at least a minute or two, spend some time on thinking on this, and then play the video to see the solution. So the solution would be, we can use the setTimeout function. Yes, so the setTimeout function can be used to delay the execution of certain code. So what we can do now, again, one thing to note over here is we will be changing something in the user interface. So we'll have to involve state in this, right? We have to have some state variable that gets updated, on which the rendering of this punchline is dependent, right? Now we know how we can do conditional rendering. We can simply have a state variable which is a Boolean type, which has initial value false, and after a certain timeout we can convert it into true so that this gets displayed. So let's see how we can do it. Now we know that this useEffect has no dependencies, so this will be executed only once. You must be thinking that this setTimeout can be used in useEffect, but you will get a problem if you use the setTimeout in this. Then only it will be executed once. Then on the first random generation of the joke, when you click on this generate joke, only the joke part will be updated. You will only see the setup, but the punchline won't be displayed, because this useEffect won't get executed over and over again. So a better way would be, because on this click of this button we are calling generate joke, so in this generate joke we can do that. So what I'll do is I can simply have this setTimeout function. This takes in another callback function. Inside of this I can do whatever I want to do, right? And I can provide a timeout of, let's say, 3000 milliseconds or 3 seconds. Now let's use another state variable, because we want to modify something in the user interface. So I'll say show punchline, and I'll have this setter function of this show punchline. Okay, and the initial value would be false. Okay, so when the initial value is false, let's control this particular div. Let's say joke dot punchline, show punchline. Yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry, not joke, just the show punchline, the state variable, and we'll use the then operator, and we'll set this. So if the show punchline is true, then this joke dot punchline gets displayed. Now after a set timeout of 300 milliseconds, we will be using the setter function of set show punchline, and we'll provide the value true. Now let's see if this gets executed. Yes. So you're seeing, how it works. If I refresh it, how many apples grow on a tree? It will take a break, all of them, right? If I'm clicking on generate joke, okay, now this is not working. Okay, that's fine. Why this is not working? Because when we click on generate joke, the value of this show punchline is not getting updated, right? This is a state variable. And when we are, setting it true, we are not updating it back to false, right? Now, if we update it to false, the user interface or the component will get re-rendered, but we'll have to do it, right? So in this generate joke, when we enter the generate joke function, we can simply set this set show punchline to false. Let's see if this has the desired behavior. Okay, if I click on generate joke, yeah, what kinds of pants do ghosts wear? Blue jeans. If I click on generate joke, what's the best thing? And yeah, so this is, sort of, I wanted to do a bit of this UI changes. You can, think of some other, basic good user interface. You can, update the CSS or the user interface as you want. So that's something that's upon you. I just wanted to give this small, quirky UI that first it shows the setup and funds, and then it shows the punchline, right? So that's about it, right? So we have used fetch to get data from third-party API. Like I said, there's another third-party module, which is Axios. So to use Axios, you'll first have to install Axios. Axios is spelled as like this, Axios, okay? So this particular third-party library provides us the ability to, again, fire third-party API calls and process the data. So we'll see, how it is better. Now, it's not better in a lot of terms, but yes, you have to write less code for this particular thing, right? You just have to use one then. So it helps you write less code and do the same thing. The code looks cleaner. So we generally prefer Axios. I personally prefer Axios, and StraihtRide also we use Axios. So for using Axios, what you have to do is first you have to run this npm install Axios, because you'll have to install the package for it. I've already installed it, but still I'll run it for you. Okay, so this got installed. Now to start using it, what you have to do is you have to import Axios from Axios. Okay, so we have imported, we have not used it, that's why it's muted text. So what we will do is we will comment this out, okay, and we will use Axios.get. So here, you have different methods. As you will see, you will get post, you will get, you have patch. So whatever HTTP methods are there, you get all the methods. You can use different functions, different methods to fire any HTTP method. Okay, so we are doing Axios.get, and we are using the URL for the API to generate random jokes. And over here, just like, we did there .then, we can do it over here as well. But we just have to, directly handle the response. We do not have to worry about converting it into JSON using this particular step, right? So this step we don't have to worry about. I can simply directly, do this console.log response. Now this is the response that is generated by Axios. So this response will have a couple of extra things, as you can see over here. It's getting, this data part will have the actual data that we want, right? So this particular, the data that we were getting initially, this one, type, setup and punchline. So this will be stored in the data, and along with that we get the status 200, status text, headers, etc., right? So to access the actual data of the returned by the API, we have to do response.data, and over here you get, this. You get to, kangaroo, etc., right? So what we will be doing is we will be using this set joke to sort of set this, and yep. Now again, we have used Axios along with, the .then callback, and we are doing the same thing that we were doing with the fetch. So these are the two ways. One is fetch, which is the default JavaScript functionality, and one is Axios, which is a third-party library. So now two different ways to call or fire a third-party API, get the data from it, and display it on your user interface, right? You also know how you can use setTimeout to, control the display, timings of any particular JSX element. So this is just an add-on, right? It looks cool. So if I click on generate joke, why couldn't Lifeguard save the hippie? He was too far out, man. So anyways, poor joke, but yes, no, not a poor joke, it's a good joke. So that's how you can do it. Like I said, this is obviously not the best way to fire third-party APIs or get data from third-party APIs. There is React query as well, which is again a third-party module. And even React official documentation suggests that you should be using that. So I will cover that in the next video. We will also cover a few different aspects where, we might not be using useEffect to control when the API is fired. But for this one, to begin with, working with third-party APIs or your API to get data, show data, I think this is a good start. So that was it for this video, right? Please practice it. I will share the link for these free APIs in the description so that you can try different ones. Right, this is a very good way to play around with data, right? Display data, create some good user interfaces, etc. Right? So let's end this video here. I hope you like this video. I hope you learned some new thing with this video. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Press the bell icon so that you get updated, notified whenever I upload a new video. And yes, keep learning, keep enjoying. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.